Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. And first and foremost, welcome to our Google Hangout on the proposed medical innovation bill. A bill that's interesting and important, but hasn't been void of controversy, I would say, with some describing it as pioneering and even groundbreaking, whilst some have expressed some concerns, including myself, and some would even go so far as to say it was potentially dangerous, and then we'll find out whether that really is the case. Now, my name is Dr. Ranj Singh. I will be hosting the discussion today, and I will be posing some of those difficult questions and seeing how we can explore this bill a bit further. We're going to be debating the bill with a panel of different people, some experts in various fields of medicine, some representatives from charities and patient groups, and everyone has their individual perspective on the bill, and it would be really good to hear that. A lot of legal professionals are arguing that current case law already protects the doctor who wants to innovate, providing a reasonable number of their peers would agree with them. And the reason that's put in place is because it does offer some sort of safeguard to the patient already, and the doctor is already under professional and, obligations from the medical point of view to do that. So there is already law in place. What does this bill actually change?
Under current law, the doctor is obliged to anticipate in advance, to speculate in advance about whether he will or won't have a body of responsible persons skilled in the particular area of medicine in question who will appear to defend his decision to depart from standard procedure. So the same test, which you rightly say, Dr. Ranj, is a good test, which is this innovation supported by a responsible body of medical persons? At the moment, that test takes place after the event, and the doctor has to be extremely anxious about what will happen after the event. The Bolam test in this bill is brought forward to before the event, so that the doctor can have complete certainty about whether the proposed innovation is or isn't one which is lawful.
Has the bill evolved at all, or is it still, does it still stand as it originally did?
No, it has evolved, and I think it will evolve more as a result of this consultation. What the Secretary of State said with the support of the Prime Minister last November was that the government was planning to move forward with this as a government bill and introduce legislation at the earliest opportunity, provided that the consultation was successful. And so far, as I understand the latest figures, of the 15,250 people who have responded to the consultation, there are now only 17 of those which are against the bill. I think the reason why the bill has gained so much support is reflected in remarks made by Professor Kennedy at Oxford recently about the bill. He put it this way. He said that what patients and their lovers, mothers, daughters, sisters want to know is, has everything been done? Is there anything else that could be done? Is there anything that we can do? That's what people want the answer to.
You could argue that rather than pushing forward this bill, we should be speeding up ethical approval processes. We should be bolstering research. We should be promoting translation of research and limiting bureaucracy. That's what we should be focusing on, rather than introducing a bill that may not change much but could potentially put people at risk.
I think the current process that we have for randomized trials and assessment for drugs is really good for patients who have common diseases. Breast cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and things like that. The problem comes when you have people who've got rare diseases, because they actually don't really have a trials process that is timely and amenable, because you can never accrue enough people into those trials to actually determine whether drug A is better than doing nothing. And so for many of these patients, there is nothing. There really is nothing. And so I think the thing is, it is quite difficult to apply the same standard, if you will, I won't say standard, but the same process which we use for common diseases to the rare ones. And the thing about the common diseases is that this will apply to those where you've done all the ordinary things, you've done all the trials, and then you fall off the end. And so this is a way that there is a protection there, because patients will not be able to go straight into something novel. They either have to have nothing from this to begin with, or they've run out.
So I feel that relieving the doctors of the restraints that currently exist would be an enormous step forward. And I believe that many aspects of the Saatchi bill would allow this to happen, particularly if we're allowed, as Lord Saatchi said, to allow the multidisciplinary team to say, yes, this patient should receive a personal trial of this drug, and if we were able to record that information in an open access database so other people could find out about it as soon as it had happened, then I think that would encourage learning as well as reduce the restraint on doctors. So I'm in support of the bill for those reasons.
For Empower, the Medical Innovation Bill is incredibly important because while we have been looking at sort of seeing the clinical trials process reformed and changes to the market so that drugs companies can get their innovative medicines through faster, fundamentally that won't make any difference unless doctors have the freedom to be able to prescribe drugs as they see fit and appropriate to their patients. So it's that bedside innovation that the Medical Innovation Bill will hopefully provide, and that's why we absolutely support it.
So for me, the idea of doctors being able to prescribe drugs that are available, perhaps that have been approved safe in other diseases, that we can show data and clinical benefit to boys with Duchenne, would be a world-changing, history-making moment for us. And I absolutely support it, and I urge everyone else to support it as well.
For the people with rare conditions, the lack of numbers of people with that particular condition represents a major risk to them. If you happen to get cancer and you get a common breast cancer or a common colon cancer, you have one level of care. But if you get cancer and you have a rare condition such as pineoblastoma of the brain, in adulthood, there's no evidence base for the treatment of that disease in adults whatsoever. There is an evidence base in childhood, and that is limited in itself. And so you then have a condition which there's no evidence to justify the treatment, and where really, if you're going to offer anybody any chance of a brighter future, you have to innovate, you have to take risks. And on the whole, those people will not sue you in the courts if it goes wrong, because you've engaged with them and explained to them the situation.
The current amount which the Treasury has put aside to meet future medical negligence.
Something like 40 billion, isn't it?
It's 24 billion pounds. Now, that it is. I cannot imagine that you could have a wall of litigation of that kind. Whether this is not to do with innovation, that doesn't create a culture of risk aversion and a culture in which the only safe path is to stick to the status quo. That must be the result. That's why so many people have said in support of this bill that we want to change the culture. The Department of Health wants the NHS culture to be less risk averse, more innovative. It produces many documents, and people give speeches to that effect. But I think the reason people support this bill is that I think they've seen that you can't change the culture without changing the law, because the law is there and it creates the culture that it has. Therefore, this change is of tremendous significance in terms of altering the culture. That's why so many people support it.
Yeah, that's if it. I know the Department of Health is consulting. That's if it's implemented in the right way and it has the right kind of impact. Now, we could talk on this for hours and hours, and there are lots and lots of different questions that we still aren't going to be able to answer, unfortunately, in this time frame. But I would urge everybody to go to the Department of Health website and to respond to the consultation, be that positively or negatively. Quite rightly, you should see both sides of the argument. I myself am still undecided which way I'm going, but I think it's important to hear both sides of the story. It's a well-intentioned bill, but obviously needs all the appropriate safeguards to make sure it doesn't cause any harm, and that's the best that we all want. Now, thank you to all of my esteemed and very helpful and very knowledgeable panel members. I'm sorry that we couldn't speak to you all a bit more and get some more opinions and ideas, but it's been really great to have you, and I hope that everyone that's watching and listening has found this very useful as well, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Nice to see Alex's son there.